And so here we have Ichigen, or his street name, Corey Hess, joining us. And I think Corey will tell a little bit about his background, but I've known Corey for over 2 years now. We've been doing Qigong and standing meditative practices together over Zoom. And he leads classes to me. It's been a real joy having Corey as a friend, mentor, teacher, and I hope you all can appreciate what he's brought for us. So with that,
Well, thank you all for coming. Thanks so much for being here. I won't talk too long, and I hope to have a little some questions if possible. Um, and I wanted to thank Elijah for inviting me and Genjo and I'm sorry, what's Genjo's wife? What is it? Josie. I I uh, I appreciate you having us here. I'm here with my family, my daughters. I have 3 daughters. They're upstairs, and I'm wondering if the whole place is shaking, while we've been here and kind of rowdy. Um, there isn't really a low volume with them, sort of. And I was leaving today, and I walked out, and I realized I hadn't held the door for Josen, and I felt bad about that. So I wanted to apologize for that. Um, anyway, thanks so much for having me. I wanted to talk a little bit about myself and my practice, and then a little bit about kufu in practice and how that shows up. I think that's kind of interesting for the lay people. So, I grew up in the Midwest, and I was really um, sensitive, kind of needing a way to engage with life, and also a real need to kind of find a way to help the world, a way to engage, and a way to be helpful. I had sort of a real strong urge for that. I didn't really have an outlet for that, and so I ran into sports. Sports was my sort of first um, gateway into um, opening up to what was possible. Deeper kind of states of mind sort of started to just pop in as I would be practicing, and I realized that focus was something that I could really use to cultivate as a person. And I also felt physically very athletic, and yet I couldn't really engage with life. Like I couldn't. There was a part of me that was sort of outside of my interactions weren't harmonious. I was sort of fighting with life, and in a cellular way, and so at a certain point in college, this sort of um, came to a head, and I was, I guess it was slightly after college. I was in Missoula, and I was in this. I was cleaning the floors in this ballet studio at night, and then I was taking a class, and I felt this sort of hinge in my hip, and everything sort of locked up, and that was like a sort of a manifestation of my internal world, and that sort of locking up. I couldn't sort of harmonize with my life, and at that point, I was living a pretty wild life in Missoula. We all thought we were Jack Kerouac and Gary Snyder, and Missoula's kind of a wild town, and maybe and and I actually wrote Gary, and I wrote Gary Snyder, and I said, I want to go do training. I want to go do some kind of training. I thought I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a poet. And I said, Gary, I want to go do training. I want to go to Japan. And I also, I didn't really have anything to write about. I didn't think I had something authentic to share. And so he said, no, don't go to Japan. Go to this place on Whidbey. They're starting this Rinzai place. So I went out there, and that started the whole process. I met the head monk. My good friend Do Yu was there, and it was a real shakeup for me. It was just not what I expected. It was very powerful, sharp. intense. They weren't nice. I thought it was going to be like some, nice poem. It was a sharp environment, and yet so powerful. And um, Yusan Doyu was sort of moving from this place I really couldn't understand. It was a place of clarity and beauty and creativity. And the way he walked was so inspiring. And so I knew in a deep way that I needed to do some form of training. I needed to sort of find a way to explore that process of really engaging creatively with um, everything I was doing. Not from a mental way. Seeing someone personify that was very interesting. Um, but I'm not doing this. This isn't for me. So I left, and I was going traveling, and some of you have heard this story. I was in Cuba, and I was there illegally, and this is cool. I'm in Cuba. It was 2000, something like that, and um, but I couldn't be there. I wasn't really able to physically enjoy myself. I'm in like the coolest place for me right now, and I really couldn't be there. I was um, divided. Um, There's a part of me that just couldn't harmonize, and so I made it back, and I went back to somehow I was back in the States, and I wrote Yusan, and I said I have fond memories of my time there, and which is I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand that I did, but it was really hard. It was always double. It was always like, oh, this is wonderful. There's something powerful, and it's really hard. It's really frustrating. So um, so he said, I'll come back out, and I went out there, and the Roshi was there from Japan, and it was day 4 of an session, and he invited me to tea, the Roshi, and meeting someone who is really moving from a place of like true embodiment, true sort of all the arrows of his body were going in one direction. Every cell felt like it was um, just this force of clarity. And he was like 5 foot tall, he's this little guy, and he's got these huge chopsticks. Somebody gave him these huge chopsticks. We were at lunch, and what is this? This is a crazy place. This is a crazy place. And I went in and I had tea with him, and it was very it was life changing to be in the room with him. And I asked him, why would someone like me go to Japan and train? And um, he looked at me and said, what do you think? That's how he talks. And I said, well, it depends on the person. It depends. And he said, no, no, it's to realize why you were born. And I just had zero. I didn't have like a strategy for that. I didn't have a response. I didn't have a foothold. And that's sort of how the Roshi is. He sort of puts you. He encompasses where you are, and he puts you into this place where there's nowhere to intellectually grasp. And so then you see, I can't do that. I can't do that. Um, and so, but I was still like, no, I'm not going over there. I'm not going to Japan. And I somehow they got me um, involved, and I went over to Japan as a some kind of I went for as a chaperone for this Montessori group of kids. We went to Japan. I went to Sogenji, and Yusan is very kind of amazing with people. And he took me over there, and I was there, and Sogenji is like this strange place. It's a bunch of wild people from all over the world. You think you'd go and everyone would be kind of sweet and harmonious, and it's like the biker gang showed up, and they're there and they're the most creative, wild people, and yet we're all bald, we've got these old clothes on, and you're there eating this food and craving cookies, and I was very emotional in Sanzen. I got to go to Sanzen with the Roshi, um, and it was very emotional for me. I realized this was very profound. It was something um, it wasn't an idea. It was deeply hitting me. I had what would be called the great doubt. This is very powerful cellular need to discover this true nature. And I left back to the States, and I was still on the fence about going. And then I was in an O session, and day 6 was 9/11, and so yeah, so Yusan came in, and he says 2 planes crashed, so it's very intense. Um, and so beside me was my best friend Chris Lanning, and then the other side was another good friend who I might mention later. We'll see, Roy. Um, and so I got on the boat. I got on the plane. What I did was I sharpened these little razors for like 6 weeks or something like that. No, whatever it was to get over there. I sharpened these razors for a guy to raise money. Went over there, made it on Halloween, and you're like on this conveyor belt. I got there, and it's just this place is just cooking. It's this oven of cooking, and for me it was a wonderful, wonderful process. This it really fit for me for a long time, for several years. I want to talk a little bit about the life there. If we're doing okay for time. So you get there, and the Roshi, he just grunts, and he like hits his tendon, and we like, where am I? He's just grunting at me and hitting his tendon, and we're supposed to learn this Sissokon, this deep exhalation. Everything is, we're just exhaling, and you go into Sanzen with him twice a day, and you give this exhale, and you can't do it. You're forcing it. You sort of, or you're faking it. You're trying, and you really want to do so well, and he sees that, and it's this under the table exchange of clarity. And so you're there, and you're confused, and you're trying so hard, and yet something starts to get into your cells. Something starts to change, and every day you're there waiting for the next sunset, waiting to go see him again. And um, for me, it was really hard. It was really difficult. And at a certain point, I got really sick. I almost lost my eyesight in one eye. I had called it kufu, this rising ki, this explosive, dynamic ki that I couldn't really handle. And I laid in this room, this tatami room. They bring me my food, um, and I couldn't do anything. None of my earnestness was helping. I was trying so hard, and I had gotten in the way. I had kind of gone past reality with trying to do my training. I was trying so hard that I had actually gotten in the way. And so laying there in the dark, um, some changes really started to happen for me. I saw that there was something much more interesting coming through all the time as I let go of all techniques. And that was a big change for me. It was like I had found an internal gear of expansiveness that my Sissokon started to really change after that. It was like I had been this cart with, I joke, these 10 horses, and 2 were going this way, and 2 going this way, 2 going up, 2, and with this, I had seen, oh, this is bigger. This isn't about Corey. This isn't about Ichigen. This is about, oh, there's something much bigger trying to come through. And so after that, my training really changed. I started moving differently. And when I would lose this sense of expansiveness, um, it showed me very clearly. I would get sick, or I would start to feel all locked up. And so instead of training being this, this mental figuring out, it was that, oh, I have to find a way cellularly to harmonize what's happening over and over. I want to kind of go a little bit into that now with kufu, and kufu is kind of like means like spontaneous problem solving. So like if you have a wheelbarrow like wheel, it breaks, you sort of rig it up to make the wheel work, okay? And you you use your kufu to get the wheelbarrow working. And that's like what training is like. Training is like you're in this place of constant creativity trying to open up. So you're there, and in the zazen, you're there, and at first you're sitting, and sometimes it's really flowing, and other times you hit this wall, or you're just a pressure cooker, or nothing's happening. And so it's this constant creative way of engaging with what's really happening. This is the kufu of practice, and the and so going to see the roshi, you see this person, and you go to see him, and you can't bring anything mental into him, and he sees you, and you're scattered, and so over time you start to unify through this sokan. You start to unify through this kufu, and you start to bring this clarity in, and it starts to come from this place of non-understanding. And I think that the body practices that I teach now, they're mostly about finding this internal creativity to open up to what's happening. So, for instance, I have stuck places in my system. I've got to creatively learn how to feel them, interact with them, let them go, and that's part of the whole process of the kufu. You see where I want to go with that. Any questions from there for right now? Anyone want to bring up a question? By the way, what's your name?
Randall.
You look like Sogen Hori to me. Doesn't he look like Sogen Hori? He does kind of. People should see him. Any questions up to now? I want to talk a little bit about Tanden, okay, because Tanden's just a really big part of this harmonizing and this Sokan, and bringing things into unity. So the Tanden, the Roshi pats his stomach, pats his belly, 2 or 3 centimeters below the navel, and it's like this is the day 1, day 500 is the Tanden, and you start to move from over time from the Tanden more than this mental aspect. It becomes more this tool to unify the system. Through the Sokan, you start to develop this energetic oneness through the Tanden. And I suspect maybe people have questions about that. Even on Zoom, if people want to ask about that. This is what I'm mostly working with these days with people is working with the Tanden. Does anyone have questions about the Tanden that I'd like to bring up? Please.
Well, maybe you're about to go there. I'm wondering what working with Tanden looks like.
Well, Hakuin even said the lower body has sentience. I think that's outrageous. Like, what does that mean? We have no idea. We're so upper body focused. We're so upper body oriented, and I would say there are things that happen with people with Tanden where they think they're supposed to deny all this, and that's not the case. But we're going to focus more on the lower body. Lower body as the focus for this practice, and that is is just totally Mars. Like we don't understand that at all. But moving from the lower Dantian as a place of rooting the consciousness. So focusing there all day long without force. Um, as we're moving throughout the day, relaxing as much as possible and trying to get a sense of moving from the lower body. As I reach up, how can I reach up from the tanden? How can I move throughout the day from the tanden? And people feel the tanden slightly differently at times. Sometimes it feels like a little egg in there. Sometimes it feels like a sense of context. Like I'll move my arms and I can feel the center of that movement is the belly. They'll feel, oh, my spine has gone erect as I sit. And I don't quite know why, but if I can feel into that, the tanden is actually the center of that. Oh, the tanden has actually lengthened the spine. So we instead of figuring it out how to do it, as we focus on the tanden, it starts to cellularly change how we move through the world through our practice. So, walking around, that's part of the kufu, the creativity of practices. How can I walk around from this place of effortlessness and spaciousness that in the tanden sort of it creates this whole internal alchemy that I've been doing these practices with Elijah for the last couple of years, and they were really helpful for me in getting into my tanden and getting into my zazen. There's a Danish guy at Sogenji named Daiko, and he showed me these Jamjong posts standing, and these are static postures that you hold, and in that it forces your system to relax. And when the system starts to relax, things start to root in the tanden, things start to root in the lower body. And where we're stuck, we start to become more sophisticated about how to let go of those as we have the tanden sort of starts to change the system. Yeah, any other questions about that? Okay. So then I want to keep going a little bit in my practice. So I was at Sogenji for several years, and in I think 2005 I got ordained, and then we left. I guess we left in 2006, and came home and started a family, and then I had to kind of work with um, integrating a lot of the realizations, the breakthroughs I'd kind of opened up to in Japan. I actually went into, it took me a long time. When you come back from Sogenji and you're like this focus machine, you're just this tanden maniac. I would sort of give people advice, stop, learn how to be with people, you're this focus maniac at first. And so I had to learn to kind of come back and calm down and be a normal person. So Genji has a certain flavor like that. The Roshi Shoharada has a certain flavor like that. But I had to learn how to be a normal person. But I had some kind of gifts that I felt I needed to be able to offer. The training had given me so much. It had taken like a kind of normal guy with a lot of internal frustration, and it deeply changed me. And I think sort of some of the breakthroughs that happened in the training, they really open you up to need to kind of share that with others, to need to be a kind of vessel for that. And coming back, that was really hard for me at first. I didn't really have a medium to offer. The Roshi in my lineages, there aren't really priests out in the world exactly. That isn't really the deal. And and so I came back and I had to find a medium, and I ended up working with people in healing context. I ended up working in um, like something I do structural integration and craniosacral, and um, it was a medium for me to learn how to be with people again. You learn this way of deeply harmonizing with the Roshi, deeply becoming what you're doing. You learn to remove this sort of barrier between yourself and someone else. And then when I came back, I wasn't really sure how to offer that. And so I went into a healing context. I had my table and I had these one person. It was really simple. How can I communicate? How can I be with this person non-verbally? Felt like that was the closest thing um, to my life as a monk going to see the Roshi twice a day. This non-verbal connecting, um, and so it was a laboratory over years where I learned to see, okay, when I'm clear with this person, when I'm deeply connecting from this bigger place, then healing happens, and when I'm in the way, then I get kind of beat up or slammed, or I don't harmonize very well with the situation. And so it was a really good laboratory for me to grow up and mature a little bit. Of course, being a dad, I have three daughters, that will set you straight pretty quick. You know, I joke that any of my male superiority hidden spots have been sort of demolished by three daughters, which is really wonderful. Um, and I started writing this blog about, I don't know, I think it was about 10 years ago, something like that. And that was a further way for me to explore how can I express myself in a clear way and not have it be sticky, not have it be caught, not have it be, um, my stuff in there. And if I wrote something and it felt like it was dripping with this essence, with this clarity, then that felt good, and that helped me refine over time how to be clear with people, how to be um, more mature, how to be helpful. Um, and then I started teaching just a few years ago now. I started teaching these classes online, and that's been really special. It's been really wonderful. You see people who are willing to go through a real cellular, physical change, and people are thirsty for it. It's been really special. People all over the world. We've been doing these practices, and I don't have to be perfect or anything. I can just kind of work with these people and be a helpful facilitator. I've got some really um, experienced people like Elijah there to help me, and Genriel's on the call. He's been involved. I also started, I guess I don't know how many years ago it was. Now maybe four or something. Something like that. Something like four. Did we start? I think we started like 4 years ago on the Rinzai. I've been a moderator on the Rinzai group, and it's been really wonderful to um, be with those moderators and learn how to be helpful, learn how to be, even just saying something on there that, how can that really be helpful for someone who's maybe like me, 20 years ago was some kind of pressure cooker, walking key problem, offer them something. And it's been great to get to know Mado. Mado's like, he's a total buddy now, and the other moderators, and I've seen Genriel really start to shine in this beautiful way now. Kind of heal some of his, I think some of the stuff that we all went through after coming back from Japan. It's really beautiful to see. Um, yeah, and anyway, it's been a wonderful journey, and I feel really blessed right now. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, here. Oh, I wanted to say, in the Zen world, you kind of you kind of have your teacher, and you think, well, that's we're the only ones. We're the only ones doing it. Everybody else, they don't know what they're doing. But that it's a little incestuous. So I would suggest that people they go to these other places. Like this is a beautiful place. Choboji's beautiful. You know, it's cool. It's this. It's not a monastery. It's a practice center, and so that's a cool model. And it's a beautiful. Like the Zendo's really beautiful, and you know, you're in Seattle, so yeah, you see, it's taken a long time for them to put this together. So anyway, I suggest um, you know going and checking out the other places. I think it rounds us out a little bit. Some of our you know small mindedness about our teachers. So I think that's smart.
Can you say something about the kinds of things that you teach on your um, classes?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I need that. I need help. Okay, so I teach what's called Jamjong. Jamjong is this pose standing I learned in Japan, and it's standing postures. Okay, and often one of them is like you're standing there and you're holding your arms out here, and you start with about 5 minutes, and you think, well, I can do that. That's not that hard. And after a few minutes, you start to get tired, and you start to maybe even shake, and and it's very obvious where you're stuck. Okay, that place right there, I am sort of trying to pack that away constantly, that mid back or wherever, that starts to show up. And so what it does is it creates friction in your system and it shows you where you're locked up. And that friction, um, it then again, as I was sort of trying to say earlier, that creates a sense of sophistication for your internal world, how you're holding. Oh, I couldn't feel that before. And as I get do this more and more, oh, I can feel I'm locked up there, and I can start to soften there. I can start to soften there. Um, what it also does is it creates a sense of momentum in your system. So we call it ki or chi. This starts to kind of blossom through the system through these standing postures, and it creates this momentum. So there are these stuck places. You become more sophisticated about how to open them, and also the system becomes more has a sense of momentum, sort of knocking on those locked up places. And so we get, oh, my internal language becomes more clear, more I can work with that. Another thing I do is called non-directed body movement, and this is sort of the other end of the Jamdong. It's very structured. The non-directed is you're standing there and you sort of let go of a control for that amount of time. Those two practices were sort of life changing for me in the monastery. The Zendo was so wonderful and so hard and so severe, and so I needed time to process it. So I would go in a little bit of free time every day, go behind the hondo, the great hall, and I would stand without an agenda. And I needed that time of without a goal to let my system open up. It was like I needed this amoral time to feel what was happening. That really changed me, and it really helped me integrate my practice to something I could do all the time rather than in these fixed times.
This is more about standing without agenda. What does that look like?
You know, what it looks like is at first it can be kind of dramatic. You're standing there, and what'll happen? You'll be there, and then something might start to move. Like, oh, my arm starts to move a little bit, and that little voice in your head goes, oh, don't do that. You're supposed to look good, look good. You know, you're supposed to look. Your posture's supposed to look like that. And then this little thing might start to happen, and perhaps it's some old trauma locked up in the system, sort of half resolved. And so you sort of let your system give it permission just to do that. And at first it can be really physical, like, okay, I'm working that shoulder is working out, or that neck is clarifying, and then as I went deeper into it, it showed me how I was relating with the present moment. Um, and I was sort of in this hypervigilance all the time with how I would interact with my life. So moving from this place of without this agenda, I then could open up to what was really happening, and that was really it changed my practice. Instead of reaching out like we do so much, reaching out, sort of letting everything come. The Roshi Roshi, Mukoi Janai, it's not over there. And the standing was a way for me to have just a laboratory to let that come and see what would unwind and open from that. So yeah, just the idea that this system is already trying to do zazen and it's already trying to open up really changed who I was, who I am, and it's still just big love affair for me.
Cranial Facebook.
Yes,
Still do some of that.
I do, and I love it. It's. I would say for me, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I'm kind of like just trying to do zazen with people. Really, I'm trying to just open up, and so obviously you're working with the cranial rhythm and all that, but in just feeling into what's really happening. Um, I think when we do that in a really present way, people heal. People really change. It's so beautiful, really. Um,
You're still doing table book.
I am doing some about half. Half online, some in person stuff coming, hopefully, but then half in person on table work. Um, it's beautiful. I also do these distance sessions. I mean, that's a whole other trip, but it's been really beautiful. Um, yeah, yeah.
Want to share more about the Rinzai group that you're the moderating?
Oh, yeah, the moderator group. So on.
Hi, Mado.
Oh yeah. So Beto said hi earlier. Yeah. Hi Beto from Genjo. Yeah, it was funny. We came in the other night, and it was just bonkers. We have driven like 8 hours. It felt like we didn't catch the ferry, so it was crazy. So we come in and Genjo's there, bonkers. But anyway, Mano had said hello. He wanted to say, um, yeah. So the moderator group, it's great. We sort of um, aggressively moderate, and I think that's important. It's got to be kind of these Facebook groups can kind of they can go bad quick. So we work really hard to try to keep the conversations on point and sincere and out of Zen, lots of Zen speak wants to show up. We and I also would say it's a lot of fun behind the scenes with the moderators. It's really fun. Mado is very funny, by the way, everyone. Just to say. So, but yeah, so we're there. We're just sharing. It's actually a really nice venue to be able to be helpful for people who are interested in practice. They're maybe they took a break. Maybe they're, and I find it really beautiful to try to be just a little bit inspiring if I can be on there for someone to kind of dig in, either for the first time or come back to it. Um, on the Rinzai, man, we're on there all the time. We're working on there all the time. I mean, it's and you kind of have to, otherwise it spams quick. But yeah, Mado does the most on there, I think, and then we all burn out, and then we everybody else has to keep us up for a little while, and then um, it's demanding, but yeah, I think it's been helpful for people to come back into the fold. Some people who've left. Rinzai has it's so limited here in the states, and it's unknown. There's so much more Soto, and the Soto obviously is beautiful, but the Rinzai training is so limited here, and so whatever stereotypes show up, I think we try to be clear and be honest and sincere with everyone and show them we're human. I think that's really good. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been talking a while. Would does anyone have a question before we quit? Go, please.
Yeah, so I went online and looked at what you were doing, and it sounds like so much fun. Adam would be. And I saw that you were, before the pandemic, having your somatic movement classes. So when you do somatic movement class, and you have, and what you're doing is um, uh, the movement that just is budging.
Yeah.
Kind of give me an idea of what that looks like. Like if you had this group of people in front of you, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so like if we broke right now and did this non-directed,
Non-directed.
yeah, mostly what I would say is just for this amount of time, give up like control and have some space in between you and another person. So if you end up on the ground, that's okay. But I think just again, we're always in this place of fixing. We're always in this place of control or hypervigilance. And so, what is it to just stop doing that? And for me, when I did that, when I started to do that, all this stuff started to happen. Like all this stuff came up from the depths and started to process out. And so what we would do, we'd stand there, and I would recommend at first on this, closing your eyes. You're not looking at everyone. Don't look around and see what everybody else is doing, and just feeling into what's happening. And if you start to move a little bit, just letting that happen. I wouldn't have any sharp objects around you if you end up kind of going down on the ground. And it can, for a certain animal, it's a kind of um, venue to explore what's really happening. And I think we have all these shoulds. We're sort of in this moral way of being in our bodies even. And so kind of just for that amount of time, just taking a break from that and seeing what emerges is very shocking. I actually found my tondon really opened in the non-directed. That was where it really happened, as opposed to when I was trying to do it right. So that time when I was letting that go, really, it's been my body really opened. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else, please? Great. Great. Oh, Dozo.
So, having practiced in Japan,
Yeah.
can you comment on ways that things like that are relevant? How do you see it?
Yeah. The question was coming back from Japan. How do I see Rinzai practice in our culture? Well, I don't see it much. For one thing, I don't see too. Rinzai isn't really, you know, Zen has a tricky feeling in the West. I mean, you got Zen toothpaste. You know what I mean? You got Zen shampoo. I mean, I was driving here and I stopped and what are you doing? Where are you going? I'm going to give a talk and what are you talking about? I didn't want to tell her. The person. I said, oh, I'm Zen and like peace. Okay, get your Zen on. And I think that's it's confusing. It's confusing to people. You know, but for me, it has such power actually, and I really would love for it to flourish. The sharpness and the clarity and the this energetic ki that can come through the Rinzai is special. It's not better, but it's different. It's different. The this shikari, this grasping with all your might and moving is so powerful. It can really open people. There's so much scattered. People are so scattered these days, and the Rinzai training I think is really special for people to find a way to kind of bring that all together and move and bring all of this confusion into oneness. That is, I think, the big gift of the energetically embodied aspect of Rinzai is it brings everything into oneness and clarity. And I think that's what's so powerful about it. I think it's rare. I think there's a few places that are holding it together. I would like to see more of it. I think it is happening a little bit. A few of us are, these little enclaves here and there, like Gabriel is starting a place in Pittsburgh that's gonna kind of start that. So I'd love to see it just flourish a little bit more, and have it be a little more in the consciousness. Maybe help society a little bit. This is possible, for a person like me who was, like baseball, and sports and poetry, and I meeting the Rinzai training sort of hit me in this visceral way, and so I think it needs to be present so that people can experience it. Oh, that's possible, and so I'm like, again, Gabriel's getting his place going, and I might do something like that too in some way. I'm doing my own thing, but just having people who are normal and they benefited greatly from the training, I think that is what's really gonna inspire people to go deep in their own process. Yeah. Great. Everyone tired. Everyone's late. Who's chatting? Let's see. Okay. All right. Anyone want to chime in real quick here before we go? Any questions from here? Dozo, please go ahead. Okay. Looks like we're all good. Hi Wes. Hi Mato Ginyo. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, again, thanks so much for having me. Anything else today? Anything else tonight? Yeah, really a pleasure. And again, thanks for hosting this, having me be here. Okay. Oh, great to meet you.
Here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you. Okay.